Start.
Is my volume level okay for everyone?
I think it's good, right? And mine as well.
Okay. No, I'm using the mic on my PC rather than the mic on my headphones.
Well, you sound great to me, and hopefully we'll hear the hustle and bustle of Toshin in the background too. It's a familiar, comforting sound.
Kayla's in.
Hey, Kayla. So just to start us off, hey everyone, like I said at the beginning, you can feel free to turn on your video. I'll be asking Bill some questions for the first half, and then for the last 20-30 minutes, maybe we won't end quite at the hour. I'll open it up and want everyone to ask your own questions to Bill, and myself too, but let's face it, Bill's far more important, and he's the reason why we're here. So if I don't get to your questions that you submitted on the registration form, sorry about that, and just feel free to jump in then and ask away. And we have another Come On Out staff here. Gwen, you want to make the real quick internship announcement since we're in kind of a weird middle space for our fall interns?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Gwen. If you don't know me, I probably interviewed a couple of you. Just if you're waiting on hearing back from our fall internship, we're probably going to have those results by this weekend. Monday at the very latest, you'll hear from us, but we're going to send out an email with those results and the final team you'll be on if you're accepted. So thank you all for applying and enjoy this webinar.
Yeah, thank you, Gwen. And Gwen did some awesome webinars in the summer. You can check them out on our website, comeonoutjapan.com/webinars. And this is our first one in the fall, like I said, and very excited because I've been trying to get Bill to do a webinar with me for a long time. He's a busy man. He's a hard one to reach. He's got all sorts of things he's doing. And for those of you who don't know, actually, I should introduce myself, Matt, the program director, Coming Out Japan. But I've had the pleasure of working with Bill and Toshin for the last 5 years. And I think most of you either know who Bill is or know what Toshin does, but they're super influential in Japan in the education realm. And Bill is a big part of that. And he is also a big part of Global English Camp. As he was mentioning earlier, doing all the interviews. He wrote the curriculum. He and I remember Bill 5 years ago when we first started meeting you and me, working on the textbook. Super great. And I've learned so much from him. Been a great mentor to me and many, many interns and students too. And quite frankly, I always enjoy a conversation with Bill. He's got lots of life experience. I feel like we could do a whole webinar on your life experiences too. But we'll keep it focused to Japanese education and Juku and thinking curriculum. But anyways, so without further ado, this is Bill Gear. He's a Toshin Senior Manager. And like I said, a huge part of English Camp. And yeah, my first, not really a question, but Bill, if you don't mind giving yourself a brief introduction since I can't do as good of a job.
You did pretty good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, I'm from Oregon originally, way up in the hills, in the mountains, grew up in the forest. Didn't have a lot of experience with big cities until I got sent off by my grandparents to Europe. Spent about half my life in Europe doing study abroad programs and getting my English accent all messed up. So I tend to speak with a very flat, dull way.
Perfect for webinars.
Well, I mean, it's very easy for the Japanese to understand me, but it's extremely difficult for people to figure out if I'm a Canadian or something else sometimes. Yeah, graduated from University of Oregon, did some post-degree work at Penn. Yeah, that was an experience of like throwing a lot of money down a hole. The MBA program over there, it's quite expensive.
Don't say that. We have university students attending this webinar, Bill.
No. It was surprising how much education has gone up being over in Japan. So I guess out of university, I worked for a government agency out in Virginia, DC area. Worked there for a year under the Clinton administration. Didn't really like it, so I left. Went back to Oregon, opened up a desktop publishing company of my own. And one of my professors, who was a visiting professor emeritus or something like that from Japan, he decided I should go to Japan. So he applied me to the JET program. He filled in all the applications, and some of my friends were complicit. But I actually do not know what the JET program application forms look like because I didn't do them. He did them. And I ended up going to an interview for the JET program. I got a letter in the post, and I had no idea what it was about. I didn't know that it was about Japan even. So I went to an interview with about 12 Japanese folks at a table. And the only things I knew about Japan were the ones we see from TV, and Yokohama tires, and, you know, don't say Hiroshima is what was going in my head. And when they asked me what city I wanted to go to if I was to join the program, I said Sapporo or Yokohama, and they sent me to Yokohama. And anyone who knows what the JET program is, it's basically a cultural exchange where they place you in a public school and you get to teach. Not really teach, but be the native voice, be the native parrot in the room.
You're an assistant teacher, basically, right?
Yeah, you're what is called an ALT, an assistant language teacher, or an AET, assistant English teacher, or just gaijin teacher. Back in the days, they didn't have a lot of experience with education, so they would put you as a native into the class of a junior high or a high school, and you would read the vocabulary words. You might be expected to make a game or an activity to reinforce a grammar structure or a set of vocabulary words based on a theme. And you weren't really given a whole lot of respect or anything else as a teacher because you were not a teacher. You know, I have 2 business degrees and an anthropology degree, and yeah, I was not an educator. I taught in university level before, computer classes and whatnot, but I had never taught little ones. So, yeah, my school was one of those schools you see from the 1980s Japanese movies where the kids are violent and running around and, you know, wearing long dresses, that kind of thing. It was a violent school. I clicked with the kids because I didn't know any better. I didn't act like a teacher. I acted like a big brother to them, mentored them, and they came on side. So after that, the second year of the JET program, they sent me to Knight High School, which is, for the Americans, it's a GED. I guess for the Brits out there, it's when you fail your O levels or your A levels, you go to a trade school to kind of make your way in life. The kids were anywhere from 16 to 70 years old, 60 years old. My kids. I had a 68-year-old purple-haired granny. Had a couple dozen kids that work in the nightlife and trucking and stuff like that. They threw me in the deep end. There was no English teacher in the school, no Japanese teacher to work with me. So that's when I actually started having to create curriculum. Had to actually create a curriculum on computers. They wanted me to teach computer class in Japanese. And I didn't speak Japanese.
Not at this point at all.
Yeah, there's no English class in that school. So yeah, so I made an English class dealing with emails and things like that. They sent emails to Clinton and his wife, which was kind of fun, these high school kids. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. The highlight was a kid riding his motorcycle down the 4th floor hallway.
Oh my, it's not what I imagined in my head, that's for sure.
No, it's not what you imagine about Japan. Japan is not anime. The third year, because I survived both those trials, they moved me into the Board of Education, and in particular, it's called the Kokusai Shitsu. It's the international room of the mayor of Yokohama, and I dealt with visitors to the city, the publishing aspect of the city for the education system, and the Kenshu Center, which was the research and training center for all the Japanese teachers in Yokohama City. So I actually took over the reins of training Japanese teachers on how to be teachers, which was hilarious because I was not a teacher.
But it's a good way to learn. Throw you right into it.
It was a good way to learn. It was a good way to learn. I had to study a lot about different aspects of education, the theory behind education, and a lot of it went into those psych classes that you take in university. We all take them. How does the mind work? How do people acquire language? How do they acquire skills? And I learned to disavow myself of all the strange ideas of trying to take my ideas and put them into kids' heads, which is the wrong way to go about it. You never start with what you want to do. You start with what the kids need, what they require, and it doesn't go through the filter that you look at them with. That was a big point to learn for me. After that, after 3 years in the JET program, the city offered me a full-time position in their Board of Education. And Board of Education in Japan, it's, I don't know what you have in the States or in the UK, but this is a local government entity that controls the schools, elementary, junior high, and high school, middle school, whatever.
And do they determine the curriculum, or?
In some ways, yes. I'll shorten it down to BOE, Board of Education, BOE. The BOEs, they create a can-do list, C-A-N-D-O, I can do this. So the can-do list that they develop is what is expected of each child to do at any given subject, like mathematics, English, history, social studies, social responsibility classes that they have as well. So this is a list of everything these kids need to be able to do at each quarter, each term, and at the end of each year, and they will be checked. And then the schools are given the ability to select what textbooks they will use and how they'll approach that within the school. So textbook sales companies, Pearson Longman, Oxford Press, Cambridge Press for the high schools. A lot of different companies come into the schools and lay out books. And they come into the BOEs and lay out the books and say, this is what we have, this is what we think you should use. The BOE will actually say, we approve this book, this book, this book, choose from it, basically. So the BOE offered me a position to head up their entire program for native teachers and everything else, and I refused it. It was good money. One thing, oh, sorry, I forgot to say when I went to Japan. I went to Japan in '94. So I've been in Japan for 26 years. So we're talking mid-90s. So in '97, all Japanese offices were still smoking offices. And at that time, in '94, I did the research. 70% of Japanese men were smokers. And 30% of Japanese women were smokers. So if you're sitting in an office, you were guaranteed to be breathing about, I don't know, 20 packs a day, 30 packs a day. There were like ashtrays all over. The desks were sticky with nicotine and tar. I guess it was tar, not nicotine. But yeah, papers in your desk were getting yellowy because of all the smoke. It was just terrible. And yeah, they didn't have air conditioning in a lot of their buildings back then either. So government buildings didn't have the budget for aircon. So I refused, and I went out looking for a job. I actually was trying to get into what the Japanese call a boeki, which is a trading company. They go in there and they handle the import-export of products. I wanted to get into that. I set up an interview, got off on the wrong floor because I was so nervous. It was a crowded elevator, and I was like running through my head what I needed to say in Japanese, and I got off a floor early. And I went up, dropped my Japanese resume with picture off at the front desk, told them I was there for an interview, and the woman just stared at me, and I sat down, and they interviewed me. And it was not a boeki, it was a consulting firm. didn't have any foreigners in their company. So they were intrigued why a foreigner cold called them.
I thought you were going to say Toshin. It was Toshin, and that would have been the best origin story.
Nah, the Toshin origin story is even funnier. No, but that got me into business consulting, which ended up being my great love in Japan. I worked in the consulting realm for over a dozen years with lots of different companies. I worked with Accenture, which was Arthur Andersen Consulting way back when. I worked with That Side Consulting. I worked with a company called ProMotion, built their website for them. Yeah, I did a lot of different consulting. A lot of it was boutique consulting, dealing with smaller industries. And I went from product side and mergers and acquisitions, and I shifted over to realizing that most of the issues I was solving in companies were due to HR. And HR was very much connected to how you educate your employees when they enter the company. It's not about indoctrination, it's about understanding their skill set, how they're going to fit into teams, how you're going to educate them about the culture of the company. And so I started sliding back towards education in that respect. And I started making seminars for big companies like Microsoft and Novartis. A lot of those companies paid me a lot of money and paid my company tons of money to have me go in there and refit their HR systems. And the funniest thing I did was a sexual harassment seminar for a very large Japanese company that had a lot of Americans in it. And yeah, that was a lot of fun, putting some old grumpy Japanese men into positions where they were sexually harassed while they were taking very important tests that were going to supposedly identify their next step in the company.
So you did all these training seminars. Is that what led you into Toshin? Was it the training, or how did it ultimately happen?
Well, that was going on, and then I stepped out of a company. I was working 80-hour weeks in those days, 80, 90-hour weeks for about 12 years, 15 years. That takes a toll on your body.
Yeah, Bill, I'm going to stop you right there to tell everyone that submitted the question on advice to get a teaching job in Japan. It looks like you've got to work for about 6 different industries. You have to have someone else apply for JET for you, and then work 80-hour weeks doing seminars. Anyways, Bill, sorry.
Yeah. No, I stumbled into the education industry. The best way to get into it is get your CELTA, get your TEFL, your TESOL, get some education on that, on actual teaching. And now, because it's the 2000s, 2020s, Japanese companies, Japanese schools, they understand that is a teacher. They won't see you as just a biological recorder or a parrot or something like that. Yeah. So I stepped out of the consulting and I went to a startup, and that startup was in the education field. They were attempting to match up people and students and get private lessons going in wherever they needed them, with an online AI component that actually identified how accurate the person was speaking.
Oh.
So I did that for 5 years. I did it from the ground up until we were up and running, and left to start my own company, which was back into the consulting realm. And I worked with China, Korea, Singapore, Thailand, those countries, to help them get products into the Japanese market. Did that for 3 years before I got burnt out. And then I went back to school a little bit. And I was working for a company that is supplying ALTs to about 30, 40% of the Japanese schools in the nation.
Different schools, like a recruiting company of ALTs.
Yeah, this is a management company of ALTs.
Okay.
It's a very, very large company, and I now call it the evil empire. So I went there looking for a part-time job to just kind of supplement a master's program for me in Japan, and I ended up getting offered a regional manager job, and I took it. tried to make changes to the education process, dealt with a lot of BOEs. I dealt with like 27 BOEs, that's a lot of bureaucracy. And I got to see firsthand the problems of the education system, how it's done in Japan, the problems with what the kids are going through, and that it had not improved from 94 or 74 for that matter. And I was having an extremely rough day, and I marched out of a meeting that they decided to cut all the teachers' salaries by 20% just for improving profit margins. And I got fed up and I walked out of the meeting, and I got a call from a headhunter from Robert Walters. And they said a company called Toshin wants to interview you.
Hey.
And I was like, I had no idea who Toshin was, but I said yes. I usually said no to headhunters, but yeah, said yes, went in, and basically had interviews up to the CEO level. He interviewed me, told me he wanted this to be my final company in Japan, which felt good. Anytime a company tells you they want to hire you and they value your experience, it feels really good, to be honest. It's really difficult to find a company that says that to your face and somewhat means it. I was the first foreigner in their company. And basically they asked me how much I wanted. And I said, you have one chance. You make an offer, and it has to be a good enough offer that I will walk away from my current job and will want to stay with you. And they made an offer that was quite good. You know, it's allowed me to
Enough
have
to lure you in.
quite a bit more. Yeah, it's like it was quite a big jump in salary. It was more than double my previous salary. So that made me absolutely feel that they wanted me. And then later on, I found out that they had been searching for a native to bring into the company for 3 years.
Wow.
And so when I came in, they immediately put me into a bucho level role, which is a senior manager of a division. It's usually the number 2 of a division. And yeah, that was surprising too, because coming in over a few hundred people that had much more experience in the company than me. Another very steep learning curve. And I immediately started studying again about curriculum development and learning theory, and just cramming my head full of every book I could read on the subject. And the final thing they did to lure me in was they offered the English program. The global English camp. So
you should know the name, Bill. We've worked on it for 5 years.
No, I was looking at the notes, looking to see if I'm what I'm going to answer next on here, yeah. And I looked down at global, then I saw Olympics, and I was like, no, that's not the right word. Global English camp.
Yeah.
So yeah, the CEO called me in and he said, "Can you hire 100 people in 3 months?" And I said, "Sure." I said, "Sure, why not? If you give me the time, I can do it." Yeah. And he said, "You have free reign, go." And then they told me, make a curriculum, make a textbook,
yeah,
which was another fun challenge. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now. My division currently is placing its feet firmly on the distance learning and AI integrated education tools. So that's what we're working on right now.
Which is really cool. And with our last 30 minutes, we'll see what we can actually get to. But
yeah, sorry.
No. I mean, Bill, you know me, and I also have learned a lot from you and everyone here. Maybe depending on what route you take to get somewhere, it's not always the one you expect. And Bill and I both were park rangers at one point. You know, it's a lot of weird things before we end up in education. So I think everyone benefits from your story, Bill, and I always enjoy hearing it. But I should have led with, you were the first foreigner in Toshin. I didn't know that. And what a title. And now Toshin is a company that if you say that to a Japanese student, they will go, "Oh yeah, of course I know Toshin." Or if you go to the Tokyo Swallows baseball game, all you have to do is look to left field and find the advertisement for it. So now it's this, you know, nationally recognized, internationally even, and company that does way more than just the English camp, but obviously you've been a huge part in creating that, and that's where a lot of the people here know us and know you. I guess I'll do a couple questions, then I really want to open it up, so it looks like I might not get to as many as what you guys submitted, so just start thinking of what you'd prefer to ask.
I mean, I have, my schedule's okay. My morning meeting looks like it finished, so I'm not going to get called out. So I got extra time.
This is the Bill I know. He's always got something going on, always working different projects, and not just English camp, as you guys heard him say. He does all this different stuff for Toshin. That's just one small part. And so actually with that question, I was curious, since, you know, some of us are familiar and some of us are not, in the Japanese education system, we have Juku. So Toshin has Jukus, these cram schools. What do you think are, you know, the pros and cons of the Juku, and how it's different than, you know, what we have in the States or in the UK, Canada, across Europe, etc.?
I think, first of all, cram school and Juku, you know, they kind of get pushed together a bit. A cram school is basically when you cram a whole bunch of kids into a room, like 60 kids. China and Korea are quite adept at this. Cram a bunch of kids in, and you have a top-down lecture style of education, where you have someone in the front of the room telling the kids a bunch of information, they're writing it down, there's not a whole lot of interaction on a personal level. Toshin's Juku system is not a cram school. We don't force the stuff down the kids. The way that Toshin, as a company, we approach it is we check with the kids to make a life mission, as you all kind of get. The life mission in the English camp was much more fleshed out by us, 5 years ago. But they have a goal in life, like what do they want to be after university? Then we work it back, like what kind of school you need to do, what kind of experience do you need to get? These are the schools, here's your dream school, here's your 3 regular schools you should shoot for, and here's your safety school. So each kid has anywhere from 3 to 5 universities in their head when they come to Toshin after they've been counseled. And then we have a system called the Tangen genre. Tangen genre is defined as we have the kids take tests and specifically find each weak point in every single type of education that they've had. Science, art, biology, everything that they need. We compare it to what they need to get into a specific entry exam for a school, for their set of schools. And then we actually separate the classes that are VOD from our, I guess we have 50 or 60 professors now that do VOD lessons, video on demand, sorry.
Yeah, video.
And it's all digital, and the kids can sit in front of a computer and take classes, watch these classes, have all these interaction and confirmations and things that they do and write-ups that they do and get it checked. And it's on an individually, it's on an individual basis, basically. Each kid is taking a slightly different or a greatly different series of classes than the kid next to them in the center. So they're not crammed in, they're not having it forced down their throat. They're not, And the role of the Juku or the cram school is to cover the weak points of the education system of Japan, which tends to be very top-down, non-interactive, works on a can-do list, and never confirms that kids have understanding. There's not a whole lot of interaction between the kids using their skills. English, as an example, the kids learn vocabulary, but they never use it in class.
Right.
You know, if you've all worked with the kids, you know what it is. You know, they'll drop a $10 word.
Yeah, and that's what I admire about Toshin is that viewpoint. And for those of you who want to become teachers in the States or wherever elsewhere, and I'm sure there's a few of you in my master's program, checking for understanding was a concept that was forced down my throat as a teacher to do in my class. So I think it's really great that Toshin steps up and is progressive, not just with the English camp, but with what you guys do for the students outside of it too. And that's why I wanted to ask that question.
Like, who of you have like studied education, like either on your own or education theory, anything like that? Anyone?
Yeah.
I know Robert has.
Yeah.
Anna, yeah.
There's programs.
Kayla, of course, yeah.
And Kelly, you're about to start a master's program in education, right?
Yeah.
That's right. Okay, yeah. So I mean, like, for instance, in a Japanese public school, they don't even do question circling, which is the idea of asking about a subject various different ways to give each child an opportunity to kind of answer that or
Right.
show that they understand.
Yeah.
You know, instead of just asking the same question, like, what's your favorite fruit? You might model it. You might come at it from a different aspect. And they don't even do that in the public schools. So getting the kids excited about things is primarily what we try to do.
Mm.
Self-motivation rather than external motivation. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I see that a lot. And that obviously is that mentality of Toshin education is definitely translated into the English camp for those of you who've done it and have seen the curriculum and how we do things, especially the life mission, as Bill said, and kind of working back from there. I'm actually going to start opening up for questions since we've already 20 minutes from 8 p.m. my time, at least, 4 a.m. if you're Robert, and whoever else, whatever time it is. Thanks for attending if it's late for you guys. So obviously, as you have been here and not heard your questions asked, I have a long list of what you guys submitted. And I'd rather just have anyone here speak up to ask those, just to get more involvement and talk to Bill directly. And if no one has questions, I have a bunch more that I always have for Bill, and I'll jump in. But right now, if anyone, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask a question. We've got a lot more to talk about. So, who first?
Oh, wow.
I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but I know there's some people attending that had some good questions submitted, so I figured you could just ask directly. No?
I'll go
Okay.
ahead and ask one if
Thanks,
that's
Gwen.
okay.
Hey, Gwen.
Hi, how are you?
Okay.
So I'm just wondering how, like, I don't know if you're involved in this in terms of marketing Global English Camp, but if you know anything about marketing that to a Japanese audience versus maybe like how you market something towards an English speaking audience, do you know anything about that?
The English camp, how we market it to the kids. Well, Toshin has roughly 1,000 schools in Japan. And we create pamphlets and posters, and we have informational sessions that we do at different schools. We'll train up the staff from those schools virtually these days. And we get them to go in there and do little talks at the school. If a child joined from one of those schools, from one of the Toshin schools, they get up in front and they talk about what they did. We try to make it somewhat grassroots in some respects. We don't want big old Tokyo staff going down to Fukuoka and saying, you should join this camp because it's so wonderful. We try to get the kids themselves to do things. We show videos, we package like a video with all of you, messing around with kids, having games, giving speeches, and we show the buildup of kids' skills. We have interviews with the kids prior to joining the program, and some of the same kids, we interview them after the program to see what they're worried about and what they're thinking before they even do it. And then at the end, they're talking about their experiences, and we put those in the videos as well for the marketing materials. And that has led to quite a bit of interest. The kids love to see that they're not the only ones worrying about 40 hours with a native, you know, and being put on the spot to use English. They see a kid saying, I'm really nervous, I don't know what I'm gonna do, saying it in Japanese. And then at the end of the week, they're like, I talked about this and this and this, and I did this, and I got this feedback, and I'm gonna go to Oxford because my teacher told me about Oxford. You know, it's like they get all excited. And capturing that little moment for them especially is important, because 2 or 3 months down the line, that kid needs that reminder too. All the kids need the reminder that that is possible, that kind of passion is possible. Yeah.
Yeah, they always seem so excited to be there. So it's cool to hear that you guys do on the ground marketing and get the kids who really do want to be there and learn. Thank you.
Yeah, as a rule, we do not allow parents to sign their kids up for it. The kids have to sign up themselves.
Yeah. And
That's why the numbers aren't extraordinary. Yeah.
Well, there's still quite a lot of students who have been impacted over the years, and interns too. We as interns, I know I can speak to everyone else here that's participated. It's a super impactful experience as well to watch those kids grow and develop over the week. Very fulfilling. And again, another apology for those signed up for 2020 and or thinking about next year. We'll see. I guess if anyone was going to ask that question, I'll just get that update out of the way. It's completely unconfirmed for next summer, obviously with the state of things. But still, we're being optimistic because it is such an impactful program for students. So, and I think some people might ask about this as well. In the summer, we did do a remote camp we tried out with Toshin, and it was really awesome. A very small group, very trial, super impactful. Some of the teachers are here today that did that. But we don't have any updates for that either, just in case anyone was going to ask that question. But hopefully that will be down the line. I know Bill and I will be talking about it in the coming months. But yeah, okay. Well, thanks, Gwen, for the question. Now, does anyone else have any questions? Anything at all, really? Because I've got a long list here, but I'd rather you guys ask it. Jimmy's microphone's having issues. Is he typing something? Yeah, feel free to type.
Kids' expectation.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
What are the kids' expectations of the outcome of the program?
The kids' parents' expectations.
Kids' expectation. I mean, the parents' expectations don't really come into it because we're motivating the kids to sign up by themselves. The parents do have a monetary investment in it, because they have to pay for their kid to come to the camp or pay for the hotel for their kid to stay in during the camp. I think their expectations are to have a kid that's super motivated and a clearer view on what they want to do in the world. The parents' feedback that we get is usually along the lines of like, my kid is so motivated now. What should I do to keep the motivation up? And usually our advice is have your kid continue to do activities connected to English and making presentations, even in Japanese, get them active. And yeah, I mean, the parents get super excited. They also get super nervous because some of the kids are like, I want to go study abroad.
Yeah.
And we get some of those comments from the parents like, I didn't think my kid would want to go to Michigan. Why does my kid want to go to Michigan? Yeah.
More often than not. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'll put it out there. Like the interns from Michigan and the interns from UCLA always bring their game. They bring their A game or their S game. It's incredible. The kids, we get more comments about kids getting excited about those two schools than all the other schools combined. It's hilarious.
Well, who wouldn't want to come to the bright lights of Los Angeles? And I say this as I look outside on the smokiness next to the smoky air next to me. And it's Bill, we also get so many students, which I think is really cool, that not only want to study abroad, but talk to people with different majors and change their life mission by the end of the camp. They say, oh, wait, I didn't know I could do that. I got so inspired by an intern. Yeah.
Yeah, and the interns who changed their majors halfway through too.
Yeah, we've got interns who changed as well. And I know I had a university student at Toshin who bailed on university to start over to change his major to education. So there's a lot of big impacts on these students. All right, I'll stop there to open up for another question. And thanks for that question, Jimmy. Anyone out there? Any questions at all?
Can you elaborate more on your experience with the study abroad program in Europe, like where you were and what your specific role was?
I was going to junior highs and high schools. I was actually enrolled in schools. I did like a semester abroad in university at Edinburgh, University of Edinburgh. I did a term at Nyenrode in the Netherlands. I spent a year in England's public school system, which was really fun. I spent 6 months in a Welsh junior high, kind of. my grandparents were basically, they were German, and they were very concerned that I was going to become an American. So they kept finding different programs to enroll me in and different homestay families to stay with and go to school. And I ended up visiting about 12 different countries during study abroad, and yeah, from junior high through high school and then into university. So not really volunteering or doing anything like that, but of course I got trotted up to the front and helped with English classes.
Would you say that you have taken like Europe or the UK's education system based off of your experience and incorporated that into Japan's education system at all, or it wasn't necessarily something you...
Not necessarily. I mean, I guess the one thing that I do, like the British system doesn't really translate well to the Japanese system. I have taken quite a bit from like the German education system for my ideas of how to approach things in a more rigid, logical manner sometimes. From the American side, I totally avoid the, what do you call it? The common base, or what is that? The
Common Core, yeah.
The Common Core. I absolutely abhor that. I hate it. I really don't understand why it has to be counterintuitive with the mathematics. It's just weird. I think it complicates things a little bit too much for kids when they should just be learning to love math or love the education process. I think Common Core gets in its own way. It could be
complicates us as teachers too, by the way.
Yeah. It's like, no, this math, your multiplication is wrong because you put the 3 in front of the 2 rather than the 2 times 3 and 3 times 2 is different. It's like, yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself. But
that could be a whole nother webinar, yeah.
Yeah. Long story short, I think all my experiences mix into what I think of as education, for better or for worse. I'm a polymath. I study quite a few things, and I tend to throw it all into a pot and mix it up. I mean, I studied quantum physics for a while in university. I was a pre-med student originally. Here I'm doing HTML5 and XML and JavaScript. It's just like everything that I learn, everything that challenges me, everything that knocks me down and I have to brush myself and pick myself up, education-wise, I take that on as another way to approach how we view kids and their experiences. So if you learn a language and you struggled, you have to understand that your kids are going to struggle too like that. And we absolutely cannot view kids through our own lens. That's where anthropology comes in for me, viewing them from a clear lens, not putting your own ideas, your own thoughts into it when you're viewing a kid and what they need. When I train teachers in Japan for Toshin, I use the image like each kid is a dark room and there's one light switch, and you don't know where that light switch is. It might be next to the door. It might be on the floor in the left-hand corner. It might be up on the roof somewhere. I mean, you got to figure out where each kid's switch is, how you're going to activate, intrigue them, make them so that they're asking questions. It makes your job as an educator so much easier when kids are the ones asking questions and wanting to know things, rather than you telling them a bunch of things that don't really make sense.
Yeah. That's a great analogy, and to instill the love of learning. And I think in English camp, we try to do that. That's why we have all these wonderful people on this chat that have diverse experiences and can really impact the kids with all those different experiences. So it's a great point. I really like that one. I'm going to keep that one stored for later. So if anyone hears of me say that on another webinar, just remind me to quote Bill. Anyways, any other questions? Keep them coming. We've got 10-15 until Bill gets called away.
Yeah, Robert, you've been quiet. You've known me for a few years.
I've known you for a few years, and I feel like I know many things already. And I want to yield the floor to other people, obviously.
It might also be because it's 4 a.m. for Robert, right?
Oh, come on, 4 a.m. That's like, noon.
Robert doesn't sleep.
Well, yeah, please, anyone jump in. Oh, sorry, Kelly.
Sorry, I have one more question. What would you say is like the number one thing you value about Japan's education system?
That is almost word for word my question, Kelly, that I've written down here as a
Sorry.
backup. I love it.
Yeah.
No, I'm so happy you asked it. Go ahead, Bill.
I mean, yeah. I guess first off, in the Japanese education system is like a limping dinosaur. It's based on things that were created back in the 60s. There's a lot of problems with it, but the thing that I love the most is the investment that parents have in it and the seriousness of how the teachers and the kids approach education in this country. The way that they go about it is not always the best way. There's a lot of repeat after me, stand up, repeat, repeat. Even math, they'll have kids stand up and just read the question, answer the question, sit down. There's no confirmation of comprehension.
Yeah.
But the one thing you do find is there is a definite passion for education underlying all of Japan. It's the one country where you still have people stubbornly reading paper books, which is awesome. It's the one country in the world where you can walk up to Shinjuku and you can go into a building that's 7 floors tall and it's filled with paperback books.
I love that.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's like, everything's gone digital. All the books are going digital. It's really fun to see kids walking around with an actual novel in their hands. Reading just for reading. I love that. The fact that kids on break between classes will pull out a book and read, be it a novel, be it a manga. Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing, and as a generalization, but like the juxtaposition of Japan being so advanced and modern, but also holding on to tradition and in education, obviously, it's that way too.
Yeah. And you'll ask a Japanese why they read a book rather than the digital. They'll tell you, quite frankly, digital books hurt their eyes. And they like having the book in their hands. They like that physical feedback. It's part of their process. They love it.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy, how does the education system teach students with special needs? To parents is more or less involved in kids' education. Jimmy, unfortunately, in Japan, mainstreaming, which is where you put a special needs child into a regular class, is how they usually go. Special needs kids do not get special consideration in a lot of schools. They do have himawari classes, they call them. They often call them himawari, which is like sunflower or rose or something like that. They put all the special needs kids into one room and they have a special class where they're taught how to take care of themselves, how to plant potatoes in the ground, how to cook food. They're not really taught a whole lot of other subjects. They push them to the side. You'll have people with ADHD, with Down syndrome, with fetal alcohol syndrome. You've got the whole range all in one room with 1 or 2 teachers. Unfortunately, the Japanese are quite far behind anyone else in that realm. And the kids, Japanese education system, the teachers are considered what the Japanese call a third parent. The school is the third parent. So they expect the school to take care of their kids as a parent. If the kids get in trouble with the police, the school's called first, not the parents. So the kids relinquish their special needs kids to the school during the day and just expect them to take care of the kid. They don't care what the kid's actually doing, unfortunately.
Yeah.
There are some private institutions that help, but not a whole lot.
Yeah. Well, and it's not perfect in the U.S. and I'm not as familiar with the UK or Europe or others, but I know I had 2 years ago some students with special needs that weren't able to be transferred, and differentiating the content was so hard. But maybe being hopeful, we can learn from these other education systems, and Toshin can lead the change, right? That's what Toshin's there for, to be progressive in the Japanese education system. So that's a great question, Jimmy.
A quick word on additional skills that'll help you if you're coming to Japan. A lot of the schools need people that can code.
Oh, you mean for English teachers? Want people that want to teach English in Japan, or just to?
The entire education system has been so old school, and a lot of schools, because of COVID, are realizing that they got to up their digital game. And if you have any kind of coding skill, it sets you aside. You can get into education from like a developmental side, and you don't have to go into the, you don't have to be in the trenches teaching, I guess. As bad as salaries are for teaching in the States or in the UK, it's much worse in Japan. You're going to get about $2,000 a month before taxes as a ALT.
ALT, yeah.
Yeah. If you get into a private high school or something like that, you might make $3,000 a month, which is really sad because you're shaping kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, going in with your eyes open. If you go into a Eikaiwa, like an English language school, like Berlitz or something, they'll pay you like 2,000 US per month. No insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's full-time work.
Yeah, nearly every company out there that has you as an English teacher in Japan will not pay your insurance. You got to pay that yourself. But if you get in as someone with other skills, they're quite happy to hold on to you, put you into a full-time position, not an underemployed position. That's important.
Yeah. So hopefully that doesn't deter anyone that wants to teach in Japan. But hey, I'm biased because I'm a teacher myself.
Yeah.
We do it for the impact we make, obviously. And
Yeah, JET program actually supplies you with health insurance while
Right.
you're here. So
but you don't get a choice where you're put.
not really.
Not
No.
really.
But it's a great way to get into the country. They take care of you.
So actually, that leads me to a question. If you had to give a single point of advice to someone that wants to break into English teaching, specifically in Japan, would it be JET? Would that be the number one option, or would it be reaching out to a Berlitz? I know you guys don't have as many English teachers, but what would you recommend if someone wants to break in?
If you really want to, if you really want to teach, going into the JET program is great because you'll go into a small town, you'll learn the culture, it'll get crammed down your throat right from the beginning. You will be in a smaller town and you will have to adapt to the culture. So if you're a stiffer personality that you kind of like compare cultures with each other, the JET program can be challenging. But if you're the type of person who loves to experience a culture and immerse yourself in it, the JET program is ideal. Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Oh.
Jimmy.
Really? Oh, sorry, Destiny, I just saw your thing. Has the smoking culture changed? Yes, it has. Right now, it's about 30% of men smoke, but the women smokers have gone up.
Oh.
Yeah. It's actually increased from 20 or 30 up to about same as men, about 40.
Yeah. So JET is, if you want to teach and get into the culture, that's the way to go, you'd say.
It is. I mean, if you want to be a teacher, yes. If you just want to get into the country quick, anytime during the year, then go for like an ALT job, just to get in the country, get your visa done, get your COE or certificate of entry. Go to a English school like a Berlitz or an Eon or a Nova, whatever gets you in the country, and then you start searching for that ideal job.
Right.
Use the flexible schedules that they give you to get your Japanese skills solid, because that's the one thing that natives here do not do. They don't get their Japanese down. They can sometimes speak. Sometimes they feel, I watched a bunch of anime and I kind of understand what's going on because I have subtitles and I know Japan because of anime. It doesn't do you any favors here if that's what you're basing your language skills off of or your cultural expectations. Get over here, get your reading skills down, like email reading skills. Look at magazines that are published in English and Japanese, or novels that are published in Japanese and English, and start working on how that works. Translation jobs pay much better. Jobs in companies that need a native to do things for them, to interact with other countries, but they need to be able to read Japanese emails, they pay much better. You can get up in the 100 grand a year jobs if you have solid Japanese skills in a company.
Wow.
Yeah. Was that Jimmy? How was it hard to get an N1 JLPT? Years ago, it wasn't as difficult as it is now. I actually only got my N2, but I got my N2 my 3rd year in Japan, and I've been here for 26 years. So I mean, I'm an N1 level, but I never studied like in a school. My own personal bias is learn the language culturally. Don't learn it in a classroom. Learn the grammar in a classroom. But just like English, we always say English is intertwined with the culture, like the CLIL type stuff, the context-based learning.
Right.
Japanese is much, much more so. So much of the vocab doesn't make sense unless you're actually in the culture. I remember a native trying to tell me what moeru means. Moe from the Japanese anime. For your anime heads out there. Yeah. He's trying to tell me what it meant. And I was like, nah, that's not what it means.
Well, don't leave us hanging. What does it mean?
Moeru actually means to sprout. It's the verb for sprout, like a young plant is sprouting. But it also, moeru has a homonym, which means burning or heating up. And so the moe feeling for the cute little anime girls, it has 3 or 4 layers of meaning. And that's where you start. A lot of things in Japan have 2 or 3 layers of a meaning, and that becomes really difficult to explain.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And when it comes to business too, and working at a Japanese company, right?
Yeah. So this kid was telling me that moe meant it's a Japanese word that he loved because it meant young girls, cute young girls. And I was like, no, that's not what it means.
Well, we got a Japanese lesson in this webinar too. That's nice.
One of my old interview questions for teachers here was, tell me your favorite kanji character. And that's what you trotted out.
Okay, so everyone here has got to prepare that if they're going to be interviewing.
Yeah, you paint it on a square board, and hang it up on the wall.
Have it ready, yeah, or just behind you, you mean? Yeah, for those interviews. Do you know, Bill, our sorry to interrupt, our schools, like Jimmy said, Jet got canceled, obviously. Are Berlitz and these other schools, are they hiring online teachers right now? Do you know? In case
they are not, but DMM is. DMM is a company that does online lessons. I do know for a fact that World Family is, I think it's called. They're the Disney branch.
Okay.
There's 5 or 6 Chinese companies out there that are hiring endlessly. They're always hiring natives to teach from home.
Right.
I don't know all the names off the top of my head. They've been just scouring the Philippines, actually, just getting tons and tons of Filipinos signed up because they can't get the natives. Right. Sorry, the Americans, the Brits that they are actually hoping for. Yeah. But I've got a lot of Filipino friends that are signing up for it these days.
Well, we're Common Out English is trying to hire. If only we got more students. But I guess the main question out of that, Bill, was there's not necessarily a system in place for people like Jimmy that want to do JET that could teach online that would transition into a job in Japan when things start, easing up. That's probably not really happening over there, right?
Not really, because the public schools are very much in the Stone Age. Most of them are not even using, some of the schools, they still use cathode ray TVs on stands and VHS tapes.
And very few schools went online, right, when COVID hit, right? They just, because it was also in the summertime, but yeah.
They divided the classes in half to an AM and a PM. So the teachers were working double time.
Yep.
They were working longer days, and half your kids would show up for English class in the AM, and half your kids, the other half of the class would show up in the PM. Toshin schools, we opened up as soon as we could, and we have thermometer checks and alcohol sprays, and everyone masks up. You always have your masks. Yeah.
Yep.
So it's
And
like,
you guys never shut down. You were there working.
we never did. Yeah. I mean, like, we were coming in the office nonstop, which is great because job security, right?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't take a hit on my salary, which was very nice to tell my wife that we don't have to worry about.
Well, over here, we're taking hits on salary, taking hits on the schools we paid for, the university classes, the experience. But hopefully, let's all be optimistic that Japan's getting a lot better. Will the States get better? Will the UK get better? We'll keep you updated on our newsletter, of course, and everyone just be optimistic. Bill, I don't know how much more time you have, but you're okay? A couple more questions. So if everyone's else okay,
Sure.
I'm okay to stick around if anyone else want to ask something. Well, we've got some time here. Jimmy's got another one in the chat.
Sorry, Jimmy. Do Japanese schools in the countryside focus on grammar translation method more than schools in the big city because of lack of resources in the countryside? Nope, equal opportunity. They all do the same thing. If they have a native teacher in the school, they tend to shy away from that. But the teachers tend to shift around between schools. So there'll be weeks of the kids just kind of translation learning, and then the native comes and it's mostly activity-based learning. Unfortunately, the Japanese absolutely love translation method. They love it. Can't get enough of it. That's why there will always be jobs for English teachers in this country. And there will always be the fun English t-shirts.
Yeah. And well, we try to emulate that at the Global English Camp, that's for sure.
Hey, yeah. There's actually a burger shop that you'd love out towards.
Oh, now we're getting into food.
No. The name of the place.
Oh.
The name of the place is Fucking Yummy Burger.
Well, I don't know if I can include that in the recording of the webinar. I'll put a warning.
Seriously.
I know.
I went up to the place and I said, "Do you know what that means?" And he goes, "Yeah, it means." In Japanese, he's telling me, "Yeah, it means super tasty." I'm like,
super, yeah, yep.
Okay.
I've seen that in department stores. I think I saw one about a blank sale. You know, like it's a super sale, but the translation was that. So it looks like everyone should get their Japanese down and become translators. That's what I'm hearing. But
well,
come on, Bill.
Get not translators, translator jobs. I've done it before. I worked with Buena Vista for a bit, translating movies. No, translation is not. It's not a lot of fun. The deadlines, everything else, it's very stressful. But having your Japanese to the level where you can translate, is where you want to be.
Yeah. And
not just translate the language, but translate the culture. Being able to understand what's going on in the culture around you and being able to explain it in a clear manner to people who don't understand it, I think is a really important skill. Yeah. So, and I got to deal with Sesame. Sesame Street is, we're tied up with Sesame Street here.
That's the kids' English program for everyone in Toshin. Yeah. Yeah,
Sesame Street Workshop. So I'm dealing with them daily, and they often do not understand what the Japanese are thinking here.
Yeah, and but that's and for someone who's worked with Japan but my Japanese is still at izakaya level, it's tough. So that's why I always like Global English Camp when everyone comes out and so I've never been to Japan before. Let's check it out. Let's teach at Global English Camp. Do 6 weeks, and then you get a really good feel for it, and then make that decision to go and do JED or go and find other ALT jobs. Yeah. And I hope some of you, Jimmy, you said you missed JED, and I hope the rest of you, if you want to, I wish you the best luck in finding those jobs, and please reach out to us if you need any help or want any more advice. That being said, since we're 10 minutes over, I'm going to say if anyone wants to leave and is being too polite to leave, you can, but I am going to open it for any last questions from anyone. Are there any more?
Everyone's so quiet.
There, Angelique,
Angelique?
yeah, go ahead.
I was
Hi.
a lot of interns for the English camp who decide to continue trying to work for Toshin or the English camp in general.
Oh, sorry, it cut off in the beginning for me. Sorry, what was that?
Do you get a lot of interns in the English camp who afterwards, after their period's over, want to continue working for the English camp or Toshin in general?
Yeah. We get quite a few inquiries about that. I've hired 3 or 4 of the interns to work with our kids program. Yeah, the most recent was Ramsey.
And that's teaching English, right, to the kids?
Yeah, teaching English. In the office itself, not really. I mean, you need to have super high level Japanese skills to work in the office here.
Right.
That's kind of a limiting factor, and if they have something for you to do, that's the other rough point. Right now, we're neck deep in curriculum development right now, so I'm actually pulling in our native teachers to help out with that.
And are you creating new development around the fact that we're in this pandemic state, or is it just typical development?
This is actually something we were working on a year before COVID hit. We're incorporating the Watson AI engine into our program.
Oh.
And it's been a big headache to get it to understand the timbre of a child's voice.
Oh.
Because kids don't have the depth in their voice, like little kids, kindergartners and elementary school kids. And so AIs have trouble. And you actually have to take a long time educating or getting the algorithms down so it actually understands that sound is actually the kid trying to make a C sound or something, because they don't really have the plosives.
Yeah.
And the other thing is the volume control. Kids don't have the volume control that adults have, and so they'll blast out the mic sometimes. It's like, say astronaut. They're like, astronaut. They elongate things, and you're like, no. Say it slowly, and they're like, astronaut. And it's like, then it can't figure out. So
it's too, yeah.
So the pacing, the plosives, everything kind of, that's what we're working on one side. I'm not that involved with that. But the other side is completely digitizing our curriculums. Even our teachers are getting videoed, and they're emceeing our lessons now. And these lessons will be available to kids all throughout Japan, even in tiny towns. They'll have a Sesame Street themed English lesson for 9 years. Yeah.
Well, that's great. That'll help a lot of students getting them access to that special Toshin curriculum. But it sounds like we need some computational linguists over there to help with that. So if anyone's studying that too. Any last questions? I was going to call it at 8:15 my time, just to let everyone.
Let you go eat.
Yeah, go eat, go to sleep. I don't, go back to work, Bill.
Yeah, Robert needs to wake up soon, so.
Who needs sleep,
Yeah.
Stop grilling the poor guy, Bill. It's 4 a.m.
I love Robert.
Bill?
Well, we've got the love coming out now, so I think that means it's about time to wrap it up. Any last questions from you guys?
No question, but thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks, Anna.
Yes, thank you, Bill.
Yeah.
It really, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, like, doing this all through the net is so much more difficult than doing it with a group of people in front of me.
Yeah, I know you and I both, and Robert, Gwen, everyone here that's done the camp before, I know we're all missing that experience and the training week of us, meeting everyone and explaining what the camp is. Super fun. So I'm just really grateful, Bill, that you took time out of the day to do this with us. I know I've been nagging you for quite some time just because I feel like you can offer so much, and you did today. So thank you. I hope we can do it again later when we get more developments on English camp, remote camps, and things like that. So
Yeah, you can shoot everyone my my work email if you want. They can like email me with stuff, questions.
okay. Well, thank you I'm sure that's very much appreciated by everyone. So that leads me right into my little closing thought here was, thank you again, everyone. This was really awesome. We wanted to keep it special. We didn't send it out to the whole newsletter. We wanted to keep it for you guys, the interns and the Global English Camp people, to be able to talk with Bill. So we appreciate you guys asking questions and participating in discussions, and Jimmy for the technological issues, but able to type in our questions. And so I will send a follow-up email with my contact info. It looks like Bill put it in the chat as well, but I'll attach that in the email too. And we're hoping to do more of these webinars. And so thank you again, Bill, very much. We could talk for the next 2 hours. We could still go, but so maybe we'll do it again sometime with different topics.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be finished with a lot of the coding stuff that I'm doing right now pretty soon, so I'll have more time.
All right, that's great to hear on our end. So thank you for taking time out of your day. All right, well, thanks again, everyone. So nice to see your faces or to see you type in the chat. And hopefully,
Alex.
Oh, there's Alex. Hey.
He was lurking.
Lurking was fine. Listening is fine. We wanted to make it different, just have video on everyone involved. So, yeah. All right. Well, thanks again, everyone. We'll be in touch again soon, and stay in touch with us, and stay safe, stay healthy, enjoy school, enjoy work in these tough times, and we'll talk to you all soon. Thanks again.
Take care out there.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks,
Thank you so
everyone,
much.
for coming.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
What